Sergio Perez.
Sergio Perez. Sergio Perez. And for the first time ever, we'll have a Mexican driver on the podium in his home race.
La mejor afición, no solo hoy, desde que empecé en mi carrera. Hoy nos merecemos celebrar mucho.
It was supposed to be the crowning moment of Sergio Checo Perez's career, a seat alongside Max Verstappen at Red Bull Racing, the fastest team in Formula One. Fans and pundits alike saw his signing as a dream come true. But as one ESPN analyst wrote, Perez's exit from F1 marked a sad end to what at one point seemed like a long overdue bit of recognition for one of the sport's most underrated drivers. In other words, the fairy tale turned into a nightmare. Within weeks of celebrating his long-awaited triumphs, Perez found himself in a battle for survival on the very team that had offered him the world. Sergio Perez burst onto the F1 scene with talent and tenacity. In just his second season, 2012, driving for Sauber, the 23-year-old Mexican stunned the paddock by climbing from 9th on the grid to finish second at the Malaysian Grand Prix. Unbelievable! Perez breathed on the podium as he chased down champions Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton. It was a hint of the grit to come. Perez moved to the midfield Force India team in 2013 and made it his own, scoring points regularly, battling faster cars, and even reaching the podium at Silverstone and Baku in 2014-2016. But off-track drama haunted Force India. In 2018, Perez took the drastic step of saving his own team from collapse. He filed for Force India's administration, in his words, to save the team and 400 jobs. Perez later described a month of emotional and mental hell as he pushed creditors and owners, heartbroken but determined to keep the team alive. This selfless act underscored Perez's character, a driver who could not simply give up. By season's end, new owners had rescued the team, and Perez's loyalty had secured him a seat for 2019. Under the Racing Point banner, Perez reached new heights. The 2020 season was magical. After 190 races without a win, he finally broke the duck at the Sakhir Grand Prix. In Bahrain's wild streets, Perez surged from last, after an early crash, to first, capitalizing on others' misfortune. The moment in Parc Fermé was unforgettable. A tearful Perez admitting, "I hope I'm not dreaming. 10 years it took me. Incredible." Just days later, he signed for Red Bull, the ultimate prize. Formula One's official site noted that his first win and Red Bull deal came only a fortnight apart. It was as if destiny were calling. Racing Point's other win, Bahrain 2020, and several podiums had proved Perez belonged at the sharp end of the grid. A former Sauber and Force India stalwart was suddenly thrust into the limelight, a storybook ascent complete with heartfelt emotion and a few delighted tears. In February 2021, Perez got behind the wheel of a Red Bull for the first time. He described his debut test at Silverstone as something extremely special, definitely a dream come true. The winged logo on the car was a child's fantasy realized, and for Perez, it was real. Red Bull had signed him after an extremely impressive 2020 season where he scored his maiden victory. Now Perez would line up alongside four-time world champion Max Verstappen. Initially, 2021 was a period of adjustment. Perez was the established number 2 in the team, supporting Red Bull's number 1 driver. Team principal Christian Horner reminded everyone it was team first at Red Bull, signaling Perez's role: help Max and secure maximum points. Perez took it in stride, contributing valuable points and podiums while learning the ins and outs of a title-challenging organization. By early 2022, with 2 seasons of experience, Perez appeared comfortable. Red Bull said both drivers were delivering at a fantastic level, even achieving record 1-2 finishes in 2023. For a time, it truly felt like Perez had arrived. Perez proved he could win in a championship car. In 2022 and 2023, he scored 5 Grand Prix victories for Red Bull. Impressive feats that no other second driver had managed in years. Notably, All 5 of those wins came on tight, twisting street circuits. Monaco 2022, twice in Baku 2022, and others. A testament to Perez's street fighting skills and resolve. He carved out a niche as a formidable racer when the racing was intense and the barriers unforgiving. His perseverance helped Red Bull clinch the Constructors' Championships in 2022 and 2023, and famously delivered Red Bull's first ever 1-2 finish in the drivers' standings. Team bosses publicly praised Perez. Horner called him an extraordinary team player who is helping us to 2 Constructors' titles and to our first 1-2 finish in the Drivers' Championship. At these moments, Perez's dream was shining. He had the respect of his team and a front-row seat at the top of the sport. But beneath the victories, tensions were simmering. Racing drivers are competitive by nature, and 2 champions in waiting do not share a garage without friction. In late 2022, those sparks ignited in full view. At the Brazilian GP, Red Bull ordered Verstappen to slow down and let Perez through for a higher finish and more points. Verstappen flatly refused, saying over the radio, "I told you already last summer. You guys don't ask that again," shocking the team. On Perez's radio, we heard fury. He bit back, "After all I have done for him, it's a bit disappointing," and later sneered into the mic, "Yeah, this shows who he really is." That night, Red Bull held emergency talks to calm tempers. Horner apologized publicly. "I'm sorry Checo got caught in the middle," and promised both drivers would sort it out. But the message was clear. A gulf had opened between Red Bull's 2 stars. The incident was splashed across headlines, a raw glimpse at a team at odds with itself. Meanwhile, tension wasn't only between the drivers. In 2023, another Rubicon was crossed when Red Bull's own advisor Helmut Marko made an explosive remark about Perez. Speaking on television after Monza, Marko said Perez has fluctuations in form because he was South American and not as completely focused in his head as Max. The comments were met with outrage. Perez was quick to feel betrayed. Fans in Mexico were furious. Marko's apology was swift and grudging. It was wrong to attribute his fluctuating performance to his cultural heritage, he said, but the damage was done. It sounded like a loaded gun aimed at Perez's heart, a senior figure publicly questioning his focus and attributing it to stereotypes. Red Bull even had to distance itself, saying such comments will not be tolerated. For Perez, a driver who prided himself on hard work and professionalism, this felt like a slap in the face from the very people who hired him. As 2024 began, Perez promised a fresh start. He secured a new 2-year contract in May 2024 on the strength of a promising start to the season. But almost immediately, the wheels fell off. According to ESPN, Perez never appeared on the podium again after signing that extension. In Monaco 2024, the unthinkable happened. Perez crashed heavily in practice, destroying his car and $3 million worth of Red Bull parts. In Canada that year, he spun into the wall. Race weekend after race weekend, Perez failed to score the kind of results expected of him. Behind the scenes, team engineers expressed bewilderment and frustration. As one report put it, senior engineers had privately vented to Horner after Perez qualified 19th at Silverstone. Red Bull even shuffled his race engineer briefly, but nothing clicked. Even a late-season car update that stumped Perez earlier seemed not to help him, whereas Verstappen immediately came to grips with it. Horner was candid after the season. Checo started the season so strongly, 4 podiums out of 5 races. It felt like he'd taken off where he left off last year. But then really, from Monte Carlo onward, it's been a very tough year for him. We've tried everything with him and supporting him. In plain English, they had reached the limits of what they could do. Perez's form had dipped just as McLaren and Ferrari surged. His poor finishes directly opened the door for rivals. In September 2024, a relieved Perez pointed out that the entire car was now shaking even Max, saying with a hint of defiance, "Max was less sensitive to the handling issues than I was. Now they are so big that even Max is feeling them. I think the solution will benefit me even more with my style." But by then, Red Bull had already begun eyeing replacements. Rumors swirled. Daniel Ricciardo, their former prodigy, Yuki Tsunoda, Liam Lawson, even a Cadillac-backed American team floated Perez's name. In November, the arrival of young Liam Lawson into the team, replacing Ricciardo at the USGP, only intensified speculation. Sources told ESPN that Red Bull clung to Perez up to the very Mexican GP home race. But when he flamed out of Q1 in front of his fans and limped to P11, the writing was on the wall. On 18 December 2024, the end came quietly. Red Bull and Perez agreed to part ways effective immediately. The team released a statement thanking Checo for helping them win 2 constructors' titles and the unprecedented 1-2 in 2023. Horner praised Perez as extraordinary team player. Perez thanked Red Bull in turn. Driving for Red Bull has been an unforgettable experience. I'll always cherish the successes we achieved together. His words were gracious, offering respect where respect was due. Yet the scene was undeniably bittersweet. The Mexican, who once seemed destined for greatness with Red Bull, now walked away empty-handed. A season out of the sport ahead of him. The favorite to succeed him is 22-year-old Liam Lawson. For Perez, this chapter closes on a complex note. He achieved things few thought possible, rising from midfield to win races in a top car, but he was also undone by the politics and pressure at racing's peak. There were triumphs, 5 Grand Prix wins helping win championships, and there were wounds, scrutiny from management and unforgiving comparisons to his teammate. It's a story of hope giving way to heartbreak, of loyalty tested, and of a champion's ego bruised. Sergio Perez is not the type to vanish quietly. Even in this moment of uncertainty, he vowed to never give up. He will have other opportunities, perhaps in the new American F1 team or another championship. But however his future unfolds, one thing is clear. The tale of Perez's Red Bull era will be remembered as a dramatic, emotional saga. The dream turned nightmare, yes, but one from which Checo emerged scarred yet unbroken, richer in wisdom and legend. In the end, Sergio Perez's journey with Red Bull reminds us all of one simple truth. Formula One is not just about speed, it's about resilience, politics, and survival. Checo's story is one of incredible highs and crushing lows, of loyalty tested and dreams transformed. But perhaps most importantly, it's a story still unfinished. Where will he race next? Could another chapter of redemption be waiting around the corner? Whatever happens, one thing is certain. Sergio Perez isn't done yet, and neither are we. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to hit subscribe and join us for the ride. Because in Formula One, the story never truly ends, it just accelerates.